Hey, baby boy.
Hey, Dad.
How's it going?
Good.
Are you excited?
Uh-huh.
You're talking about the TIE fighter behind me. What do you think of it?
Good.
So I like Lego, but the problem is if it breaks, then it's difficult to make the spaceship again.
Uh-huh. It's good to have not so then you don't have to make it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not Lego.
Yeah, so you can get Star Wars toys that are just toys. Not Lego like that. I just want to keep it as an ornament, the TIE fighter. But talking about Star Wars and TIE fighters, do you like Star Wars?
Yep.
Why do you like it?
I just like it.
Who's your favorite character?
BB-8.
BB-8's quite cute. Why do you like BB-8?
I just like BB-8.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool robot, isn't it? It's very cute. Are you BB-8?
It's a droid.
Is he a droid? What's the difference in a droid and a robot?
Don't know. I think he might be a droid.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure what the difference is either between a droid and a robot.
I don't know either.
Are you looking forward to Christmas? Why are you looking forward to Christmas?
Because 3 days after my birthday.
Yeah. How old are you going to be?
6.
How does it feel? 6 years old. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the only reason you like Christmas, is it?
I just like it because we spend time with each other.
Yeah, that's nice. No school.
And you also have 14 days of school.
14 days off. That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. And
can we play lots?
Tomorrow, it starts the day off.
Yeah. Is there any other reason you like Christmas? Pardon me.
Not really. I also like presents. The presents.
Of course you like the presents. But Christmas is more than just about presents though, isn't it?
I also like snow. Snow sometimes.
Hardly ever snows.
Dad.
It doesn't snow very much at all.
Yeah, but in the autumn it did snow. Oh, and also I've been very cheeky.
Why?
Because on the last day of autumn, I opened everything in my calendar on the last day of autumn.
You made a what, sorry?
I opened everything in my calendar on the last day of autumn.
Everything in your calendar?
Last day of autumn.
Do you remember Christmas last year?
No. And also in autumn, it snowed in autumn.
It did snow once in autumn. So you don't remember any other Christmas?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Wow. So how do you know it's going to be fun this year?
Only thing that I remember from every Christmas is if it was fun or not fun.
And it was fun.
Uh-huh.
I really like the fact that this year you said we want to do Christmas at home. We don't want to go to the
because most of the time we go to our grandma and grandpa. Dad, I might have my birthday at home.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. It might be when we go and visit grandma and grandpa.
I will go visit grandma and grandpa 3 days after Christmas.
Yeah.
Because that's when my birthday is.
Don't worry, you'll have birthday presents and a cake. Next time, do you want to do your birthday at home?
Yep.
All right, we can do that. So I love Christmas. My earliest memory was probably when I was about 4. I remember getting a big yellow Tonka truck. And it was
What's a Tonka truck?
Big yellow Tonka truck. It's like a dumper truck. The Tonka truck that you've got. You know the big yellow one? And it was beautiful and it was metallic and it was like the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I just remember thinking, wow. That's actually that's why I got
favorite presents that I got.
Yeah.
What? My Star Wars toy, A.T. Walker.
A.T. Walker.
My Star Wars ships. We're going to have a nice time playing with it, Dad.
Yeah. I love playing with Star Wars stuff. You know, I also got a Millennium Falcon 10 years ago when we went to Disneyland. Do you know why I got it?
You gave that to me, didn't you?
I gave it to you, yeah. Because basically, when I was a kid, I wanted a Millennium Falcon, but we couldn't afford it. So when I was 39 and in Disneyland, I was like, that's it. I'm getting this. I'm a big kid. I'm a big baby. But I think it's all right to be a big kid.
And also, Dad, you were late to pick up our... And now, instead of giving us half cookie, you're giving us whole a cookie.
Yeah, I forgot that there was an early school pickup, so I was 20 minutes late to pick them up. Naughty daddy. But anyway, these things happen. Should we wish everyone a Merry Christmas and then we can go inside?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to say Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas. So please subscribe to my dad's podcast.
That's I did not tell him to say that. Folks, this podcast is actually split into two. The first part is about Brexit and James' journey into it, and the second part is a little bit more stuff. So yeah, enjoy the podcast. In total, it's 3 hours, which is why I've split it up into two. And yeah, have a great Christmas. I hope you're with loved ones. And if you're not on your own, you're not alone. I'm sending you love and lots of hugs. And yeah, let's hope 2025 is a great year, not as dystopian as this year. All right, folks. Bye-bye. Do you want to say bye-bye?
Bye, and Merry Christmas.
Boom. Right. We're live. Mr. Freeman. You're asking me about my setup in the studio, and I was talking to you about the cameras and the switcher. You're asking me if we can do side by side, and I'm sure you can somehow, but I haven't figured that one out yet. But the advantage of doing this is there's no post. I mean, it cuts down on post editing time.
Yeah.
And the problem is, I'm so busy right now, recording, publishing, editing, scheduling, researching material. I don't have time now to research the nuances of different types of, cameras and just because it's just one man band.
OBS.
It's OBS.
Look it up.
What's that?
I forget what it stands for. I think it's Open Broadcasting Software. But basically, it's an open source, so it's free, and it's supported by all of the big companies, all the big hardware companies like NVIDIA and all of that. But it is the broadcasting standard, and it's free.
All right. Okay, I'll look it up. Anyway, listen, it's nice to see you. Thank you for driving down your big fancy motorbike all the way down from Wales. How long did it take you?
2.5 hours. So not too bad. I mean, I had to take a few breaks. I can still feel my hands tingling a little bit because it revs quite high. So
yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Can you get carpal tunnel from that? Like all that way down the highway?
Don't know. I guess if you rode it long enough, maybe.
Yeah. And anyway, because we've got a lot to talk about, Mr. James Freeman, independent journalist, TNT former presenter, Brexit, MEP. I mean, you got quite a lot of titles under your bag. But I mean, first of all, you just told me you lost a stone. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going really well. And thank you, by the way. It's one of those things I've been struggling with my weight for quite a long time now. When I say struggling, in my mind, thinking I've got to lose weight. But then just, it's the usual thing, you're trying different things, trying to eat less. But clearly I was going about it the wrong way. And I think I just needed that nudge in the right direction. And of course, I'm eating 2 meals a day now. No carbs at all. Don't eat bread. And I used to be a crisp and chip monster.
I know, you told me.
So it's a big thing. And I just don't eat them anymore.
Come on, you're being a bit polite. The truth is, I kind of reached down the phone and I kind of gave you a slap across the face. Come on.
You did.
Come on, you're being really polite about this. I mean, I literally reached down. I mean, it wasn't even a slap. It was a bit of a punch. I was like, get your act together. I mean, but it was tough love. I was trying to do tough love.
I think fat face was one of the expressions you used. But you're right. And you told me, look, you're talking the talk, but you need to walk the walk as well. And you're absolutely right. So I've lost a stone. I was nearly 18 stone. Believe it or not. I'm 5'9", so not good. I'm down under 17 now, and my target is about 12. So yeah. And I think I'm going to do it because the thing is now,
yes,
I don't feel like I'm on a diet.
Exactly. Remember I told you that. I told you, mate, the best thing is not a diet. Diets don't work.
Yeah.
It's lifestyle. And we're going to crack it.
Well, it is lifestyle, but I think the diet that I'm on, I mean, I've sent you pictures of my breakfast, steak and eggs.
It's great.
I mean, like it's not like you're trying to be on this diet. Who's not going to enjoy steak and eggs and bacon and eggs, and most mornings I have an omelette. So I have an omelette with some onions, a little bit of cheese, maybe some feta cheese, spinach. Most mornings it's that. So 3 eggs, omelette. And then in the evening, all sorts. Like last night I had some chicken thigh fried with some garlic, onions, a little bit of raw vinegar, and then some sour cream, spinach on top.
Lovely.
Bloody amazing.
Bloody amazing. Did you cut back on eating late at night? Remember we talked about that and tightening up the eating window?
To the annoyance from my wife, because I don't eat with her most evenings now because she works out of New York time, so she doesn't finish until 7 and 8, and that's just too late for me. So I normally eat about sort of 5, half 5. We still eat together now and again, but
But I mean, mate, it's your health is the most important thing, because I mean you're young and you got a young family, and what would you rather, to eat with your wife and not be around in 10, 15 years, or get your health in shape, and then and then her circumstances might change, and like she suddenly joins you, and it might be that suddenly she sees the changes in you and go, hey, I want to have a bit of that, because that's what I find. What I find is when you get into shape and when you are really healthy and when you're energized, people go, what's your secret? What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me initially, which really things clicked into place, was the energy levels. Do you remember when you were saying, go listen to me, I've got a diet, I'm going to put you on it.
No, not diet, lifestyle.
And I remember saying to you, well, the only thing is I'm happy to try this, but it needs to fit in around my broadcasting, because, it's, I'm on air for 2 hours some days, and the concentration levels you need, live radio, live TV, you're thinking about so many different things at the same time. And I said, if I don't eat at a certain time, and by the end of the show, I'm starting to have that, my concentration's drifting a little bit.
Yeah.
It feels not really lightheaded, but just concentration goes. Don't have that at all.
Mate, so that was the telltale sign that there was a problem for me. That was a red flag. Because I'm thinking, man, my concentration's I'm sharp. And I have no problem with that. And I see that around me. And the problem is when you are carb loaded and insulin resistant, not just high sugars, like you are in effect, pre-diabetic, diabetic, this whole pre-diabetic nonsense is a spectrum. Like, so you're diabetic, right? You're type 2. And that's why you're flagging. Your sugar levels are dropping because you've got high insulin levels, and you need that constant food injection. And if you don't, your brain's getting starved and you can't function anymore. And it's bad. And some people get brain fog, some people get angry, some people just get flat. And you have the sugar, then you energize, and then it dips again. And the thing is, when you're running on then the sugars, that's what happens, up and down, ebb and flow, and your emotions are going up and down, your concentration is going up and down, because it does affect your emotions. But when you start fasting, and it's like the way of life every day, it's not intermittent, it's every day, you're running on ketones. And these ketones, it's like constant fuel, jet fuel. And it's the optimal fuel source for your brain. If you ask like your brain, what do you perform better under which conditions, ketones or sugars, they will say ketones every day. So like that beautiful, motorbike that you got out there, it doesn't want diesel, does it?
No.
It wants petrol. And you put petrol in it, it runs like a beaut. But if you put diesel in it, it's just not going to function. So when you were telling me like, oh, by the middle of the day, I'm kind of flagging, and I was like, what? Like, Larry, what?
Yeah, but I think most people are like that.
Yeah, because most people have got that problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're literally, I think, the advice we've had. I remember back in the 80s, there was a whole kind of, I wouldn't call it a health revolution, but suddenly in the TV they were talking about, butter's bad.
Yeah, right.
Got to have margarine.
Yeah.
Fats are bad. That's what we've been told for the 30, 40 years.
I mean, I remember
got
it.
to be low fat.
Yeah, in the 80s, that was it.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, I remember it because suddenly my mum started changing all the food that we were eating, and learning now that basically we've been told the exact opposite of what is healthy, and still, but hey, smartwatches, that's the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Going to solve everything.
Me. It's funny you should say that. No, 100%. I was with you. Like, that was exactly what happened to me in the 80s and my family. From a really healthy diet to like just crap.
Yeah.
Omelets went out in the morning and cereals came in.
Yeah.
Butter went out, vegetable oil and ghee ghee went out and sunflower oil came in. Yeah. Butter went out and margarine came in. It was just like you couldn't make it up. And we all got big and dumpy and lumpy in our family. We all, mum and dad diabetic, whatever. I got pre-diabetic just a few years ago. So it's just like, man, everything was just. It's the food pyramid. It's just an inversion of the truth. I talked about at the Bristol UK Column event. I gave a speech on the inversion, the age of inversions, and that is just another inversion of what we're told is healthy. If the food pyramid is like it's upside down. Meat's bad, eggs are bad. I mean, eggs, dude, it's a gift from nature.
I remember. I mean,
the ultimate protein ball.
I cut down on eggs a few years back because, I was on statins for a while, about 2-3 years. And I'll tell you, I was reading a paper, and I think it might have been you that posted it on X. And it was a paper. I mean, I've got a Seema Malhotra's book on statins. That was the reason I'd stopped taking them. But I'd never really read anything which talked about injuries from statins. I knew from reading Asim's book and reading a lot of the stuff that, they're not good for you. But I'd never read anything about injuries. And do you know what? I think I've actually got some injuries from the statins. Because I was reading, one of the symptoms is getting really tingly hands. Like they almost go numb when you wake up in the morning, your hands are numb. And also another one, gout. Causes gout, and I got gout. I'm clear at the moment. I've been clear for just over a year, but I got gout, and it was all around that time when I was on statins.
Well, there are lots of statins, mate. Statin problem side effects.
Yeah,
and the reality is every drug has a side effect and risk profile. Look, the dose is the poison. If you take too much of any drug, pharmaceutical drug, it will kill you. That's reality. And with statins, it has liver effects. It can increase your blood sugar. It causes muscle pains, impaired memory, tiredness, other problems like headaches and nausea, rhabdomyolysis, where your muscles literally kind of like break down. It's not good. People don't really understand that. So, everything has risks. Now, the thing is about your gout, I might push back on that and just say when you're diabetic, pre-diabetic like yourself and have metabolic syndrome, which you do, that's a big risk factor for gout. So It just might be coincidental that at the time that you're taking statins that you got gout. But gout is an example of a problem with metabolic syndrome. So
okay.
If you have metabolic syndrome, hyperinsulinemia, you're very likely to get things like gout and all the other things that come along with it. And, the reality is, James, when we had that conversation over the phone, I was just saying it from like one freedom-loving brother to another. And with one, father of young kids to another. I was like, dude, you need to sort your shit out. I don't want to see you in 5 years' time with cancer or a heart attack. And all that kind of stuff. Because right now, what I see is a train crash happening. And if I care about you, I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs going, for fuck's sake, put the brakes on. The bridge has collapsed. You're going to go off the cliff. Right? And that's what a friend would be doing, wouldn't they? They'd be screaming, like, sure, stop it. Whereas, like, if I don't give a shit about you, I'd be like, all right. Oh, well, that's going to be fun to watch. Make sure I film that and put it on TikTok. So it's because I care about you. I was like,
yeah.
Come on, man, we can do this. So I'm really proud of you. I mean, because the thing is, the listeners should know, like, when I gave you that advice, and I was pretty hard, and I gave you a lot, you were like, your response was like, it couldn't be any better. You were just like, that's it. I'm doing this, Ahmed. And I was actually quite surprised.
You weren't convinced.
No,
you
it was
weren't
just
convinced.
It was incredible. You're like, that's it. I've had enough of this. I'm doing it now. And honestly, I was so proud of you. And I am proud of you. And I think, well done. This is an example of someone who's taking ownership and said, enough is enough. I now know what I need to do. I think that's it.
That's the thing, because I've known for a long time that I need to lose weight. I've tried different things, but I just think that I was trying all the wrong things. That was the problem. So I was ready and willing at the time. I just needed a push in the right direction.
And it's probably come at a good time now, because you've left TNT and you've got this time now, and now you can concentrate on your health. But listen, let's talk about your presenting days and TNT and all that kind of stuff. What happened? Like, you had a good job, you had a good gig, you were doing 5 shows a week. You were there for how long? 2-3 years?
2 years.
2 years? And then it all went poof. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, it's left a hole. At the moment, I'm not working. I mean, that's by choice. I haven't sort of chased anything. I haven't brushed up my CV yet, because I'm kind of, I'm in a fortunate position where I don't need to worry about paying the mortgage at the moment. I've got enough money to see me by at the moment, and I'm old enough and wise enough to know that these junctions take a bit of time. Don't rush into things. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. But do you know what, Ahmed? I've been through so many different phases and done different things. I never wanted to be a broadcaster. I never really wanted to be an MEP. It wasn't like I'd sat down and thought, I want to be a politician. It wasn't. It just happened. The opportunity came up. I was in the right frame of mind, because I was just absolutely sick to death with the government and the fact that, it doesn't matter which side of the fence you sit on. The government says we're going to have a vote, and it goes that way. It goes either way. Then you expect the government to respect that. Otherwise, what we all doing here, right?
Yeah.
So I was really pissed off about when it looked like Theresa May and the rest of them were going to try and overturn Brexit. So that just came along. I was angry. I went on the march to leave and did all of that. And
so what were you doing at the time? Like, what was your job then?
Oh, so
because it sounds like you've reinvented yourself a few times.
Yeah. So I was a civil servant. I was at the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, and I was head of trade statistics for the UK.
Oh wow! So you're in the belly of the beast.
Yeah. But by design, I was actually working in business inflation. I was head of business inflation when the Brexit vote happened. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I mean, look, I'm not a Eurosceptic. I wasn't at that time. I didn't follow politics that much. In fact, I joined the Labour Party to vote for Jeremy Corbyn at the time. So I was on the other side of the spectrum. But the Brexit vote came along, and I went away, did a bit of research, and I came to the conclusion, because I always work on first principles. So I came down to, it all boiled down to me that if somebody else is telling me, if they're making laws and they're telling me that I've got to live my life in a certain way, then I want that person as close to me as possible. I want to be able to vote that person out, the person who is making that law. I don't want democracy sort of moved away into another country and be voting in the person who votes in the person who makes. So for me, it was that simple. That's what Brexit was about for me. But I could have taken it or left it at the time, but it didn't. It went that way. And so I thought, do you know what? I got really excited. I thought, I want to be in the middle of this. And so this position came up to head up the trade area at ONS. And I thought, I want to be right in the middle of it. I want to be helping the country get ready for Brexit. So I moved over to the job.
So where were you before the ONS?
Business inflation. So I was head of business inflation there.
At the ONS,
yeah.
And then you went to trade. And how long had you been there at the ONS for?
About 6 years.
Oh wow! So you're settled. You're in there.
Yeah.
And once you're in the civil service, it's kind of like a job for life. Unless you really mess up, you're not going to leave it, are you?
I mean, even if you mess up, they just move you around. You don't. They don't.
Okay.
They don't,
Actually,
you have to do something pretty bad to lose your job in the civil service.
that sounds like the NHS. I mean, you really need to frack up like big time. Like if you kill a patient here and there, that's all right. It will be covered by indemnity. I kid you not. It's only like if you do something really, really bad, like like killing people isn't bad enough. You have to upset the wrong people and call out vaccines, then you lose your job.
Yeah.
But killing someone is all right. So what I'm trying to say is, and then it says it's kind of like a job for life, as long as you just follow the line, the party line.
Yeah.
So the civil service, I thought, would have been the exact same.
Yeah, it was. So, a bit crazy, packing it all in. Not even to be an MEP, because of course you have to stand in the election. And the thing is, the rules.
So there's no guarantee. For example, you're giving up a guaranteed secure job for life and a pension to just do the right thing and stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah,
that's what you did.
Well, exactly, because the civil service, you're not allowed to stand in an election if you're a civil servant. So, in order to do it, I had to resign, and that's a whole story in itself, because the first kind of, it came into view, the opportunity that might be there to stand in the election came up about a month before I actually resigned. And at the time I was just like, nah, this is crazy, because people around me were saying, look, there's this Brexit party that's forming, they're going to stand in the elections, why don't you see if you can stand?
Oh, because they knew your views.
Yeah, well, I was on the marches. So that was the first time I met Richard Tice. I met a load of others. There were some MPs there as well, and that was when it first came up. And I just thought, I can't do it. I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got 2 kids. I knew that I would have to resign, not to be an MEP, but to stand and try and be an MEP, in the election. And that's far from. So it's taking a leap without a plan B, basically. Yeah. Like if you're going to go for plan B. Listen, before you go any further, I'm curious. The ONS. I didn't know about the ONS until you start, getting into the COVID pandemic, and then the ONS figures come out. What is that place like? Are they making lots of mistakes? Are they full of idiots? Are there people at the top that are manipulating things? What was the place like? It was a great place to work. Big. I was based in Newport. They've got 3 offices actually. One in London, which is fairly small. It's about 400 there, and then they've got about 1,200 down in Southampton, and then about 1,800 in Newport.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people.
But I'm paying for.
But they do the census. They do all the economic statistics. They do all of the health statistics. So it's a big thing, and a lot of it is survey based, which is very, very manual intensive. You need a lot of people. Less so these days with the computers and AI and all of that kind of stuff, but you still need a lot of people. And it's funny because everybody asks that question. Do they manipulate the data? That's a difficult one to answer. It's not like there is somebody there taking the numbers and manipulating them. But of course, you can say anything you want with statistics. So the first thing which kind of gives you the answer that you want, maybe, is to ask the right question. And so when the statistics are being set up, like I used to be the chair of secretariat for tripartite, which is the Bank of England, the Treasury, and ONS, and they meet every month. It's top level. And this is where we look at the statistics, we look at any new things that we need measuring, and those conversations happen there before they're brought into ONS. So it's all kind of, the bank will have an opinion on that, the Treasury will have an opinion on how they want it done, the question they want answered. So I guess, the statistics can be guided in a certain way, but there is no kind of, because lots of people online, it's the same thing with COVID. They think that all of the MPs are in on this inside plan. The truth is, most MPs haven't got a clue. They have not got a clue what's going on. There is no sort of, dastardly plan that are all in on. And it's the same at ONS.
But you don't need everybody to be in on the plan.
No, you don't.
You just need a lot of people to be absolutely clueless and blindly follow. That's the thing. That's the clever thing about it.
Yeah. Now, things have moved on quite a bit since I left. I mean, I left ONS back in 2019. One of them now is particularly on the health statistics around COVID. They've literally got rid of everybody who knew what they were doing. So now they've got lots of people there who don't really know, or very few that really know how the statistics work. And there's a lot of black box stuff. So,
What does that mean?
well, lots of, because these days when you're linking big data sets, that all goes on, like it's all set up in some kind of black box. I'm talking metaphorically, in some software thing, and it just pumps out the results.
So the reason why I'm saying this is, I mean, we're digressing a bit, but we'll get back on track in a sec. But when the COVID pandemic came out and all these graphs and stats were coming out, and I'm reading the ONS official figures, one, it wasn't clear. Two, it was very confusing. And three, it didn't. One and two are the same, actually. Three, it was like, they would show one set of data and graphs, but then the next set was like, it wasn't like for like comparison. So it was very difficult for me to try and draw conclusions. And it was like, and they're saying the unvaccinated and the vaccinated and the 2 week and this and that. And it was just very, very confusing.
And they get things wrong. So one of the things that I was doing before...
Sorry, did you say the government gets things wrong? Shock horror. Really?
Well, ONS isn't technically government, by the way. They don't have a minister responsible. We have the national statistician.
Okay, no, but who pays the ONS bills?
Yeah, comes out of tax money. Yeah, of course.
So it's funded by the government?
Yeah.
So it's a government agency?
It is a government agency.
It's as simple as that.
But it's different than a government department.
I'm not saying government department,
Yeah.
but it's a government agency.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's the government.
Yeah. And they get things wrong. And I'll give you an example. Because before this was after we'd left the European Union. I was no longer an MEP. COVID hit.
Yeah, so 1 second. You said you left the ONS in 2019. When were you an MEP?
So I think I took up my post in May 2019.
MEP?
Yeah.
That's quite late.
Late?
Wasn't it? I thought it was earlier than that.
No, I was only there for 9 months.
Ah.
Originally. And
so beginning of 2019, you became an MEP.
Yeah, and this is the crazy thing. We were just talking about how crazy it is. I've got this job for life. I was earning good money, good prospects for promotion, all of that. So it was a crazy thing. And I'll tell you how I made that decision in a minute. But the fact that I did is bonkers, right? But it's more than that, because if I was successful in the election and I got elected, at the time, we were only going to be in Europe for 4 months. So I was literally giving up all of that to go out in the end, because of various things that were going on in government. It ended up being 9 months.
But you traded a lifetime's career and security for a 4-month job to do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's what you're basically saying. A lifetime's career for a 4-month job.
We went out there to make sure that we left. So essentially, I was going out there to put myself out of a job.
Did everybody in the ONS think you were mad?
Yes.
Did they think you were far right? So, I mean, like, what's it like in the civil service? What is the culture like? Were they all like, oh yeah, great, we should get Brexit? Or were they all Europhiles? Were they all like waving the EU flag?
I mean, I was senior enough that, and the people that I was interacting with there were all economic people. So a lot of the conversations were very pragmatic rather than, oh, you horrible Brexiteer. But essentially, Brexit was a dirty word. And what was really funny is, so how I left. Let me tell the story about how I left. So so about a month before, like I said, this opportunity came up. And I thought, well, in life, I've learned you don't close down opportunities. Never. Why would you do that if you don't need to? Keep those doors open, as many as you can, and for as long as you can, right? So I went along with it. I put an application in and I thought, yeah, okay, I don't think I could do this.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to close off this opportunity. And then about 3 weeks later, I get a call from the head office. Richard Tice wants to meet you tomorrow up in London. Can you come up? So I went up, met them. Wasn't sure what was going on. Wasn't sure whether I'd done well at the interview or anything like that. And then I got a call. I think it was a Friday night, and they said, "Right, do you want to stand? will give you the number 2 position for Wales, which means it's basically PR. So it means there's 2 of us on the list. I'm number 2. If we get enough votes, number 1 gets through. If we get even more votes, number 2. So, it was far from certain. And the way that I made the decision in the end, instead of it being like a pragmatic, rational decision where you weigh up everything, because that just didn't make sense. It did not make sense doing this. I just said to myself, well, you've brought yourself here. You put that application in. You've done all of this. You've brought yourself to this point. You need to take a leap of faith. And that changed who I am as a person. That decision, going through that process, changed me as a person, because now that is how I live my life. I don't, because before that, I even though, my job at ONS is really good, I was a very, very small cog in a big machine, didn't really feel valued. I didn't get satisfaction out of my life, but I was too scared to leave because I had a job where you have flexi time, good money. And it's not like there's loads of jobs like that in South Wales. Most of them are in government. So it just didn't make sense at all. But I did it. And I went into ONS on the Monday morning. I met my director and I said, I've been given this opportunity. I couldn't have known that this would come up, because I'm supposed to give 3 months notice. But I said, I'm going to do this and I want you to let me go straight away. And I said to him, please don't come back to me tomorrow telling me that I can't do it and what's going to happen if I do. I'm telling you, I'm going to do it. I'm hoping, because I'm a good employee, I've done a lot for ONS, that you'll do this for me anyway. Came back to me the next morning. Yeah, we're going to let you go. We're going to let you go. Don't have to do any of my 3 months. Still get good references. He wrote me a glowing reference. And it was that morning, once that got out around the office, I started getting taps on the shoulder from people. And even then, they were looking over their shoulder like this to make sure no one else was seeing they were a nice one. So there were Brexiteers within the civil service, but they didn't put their head up above the parapet. They kept it to themselves because the culture there, very, very much against Brexit.
Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad that people are scared to speak up, and we're like in the era of the communist state where you can't just say what you want to say and you can't just speak up in case that, if you speak up against the MSM and the government and the legacy news, you're vilified. Like, you're a bad person. And just so that people don't know, if you're not from the UK, ONS stands for the Office of National Statistics. Four. So Office 4.
Everybody at the office gets really
annoyed. Office 4 National Statistics. But basically, looking back, just like people have forgotten what COVID was like, during the time of Brexit, when we wanted to leave the EU, there was so much fear porn going on that the economy would crash, that we would have inflation, that
gonorrhea.
GDP would go down,
gonorrhea. No sandwiches.
We'd have no sandwiches.
This is serious stuff as well, isn't it?
No antibiotics. No antibiotics.
Yeah.
Hospitals will crash. People won't be able to have operations. I mean, it's just fucking insane, the amount of fear porn. And then the flip side was also the people who want Brexit are all white, old, poor, stupid, racist idiots. And I was like, no, unless I have an identity crisis.
Yeah.
I didn't identify as any of those. So you remember, because I joined the Brexit Party too.
Did you?
Yeah, I was a prospective parliamentary candidate for Cheshire and Amersham.
Were you?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, I had my little stall at Cheshire Market every Saturday morning and got called a racist and a white supremacist and a Nazi. I remember that when I did a stall in Beaconsfield, this guy came off his bike really quite fast. And I thought he was like, oh, can I get a leaflet? And he just pointed his finger at me and went, "You stupid racist." And I was like, looking at my skin color going, "Yeah, right. Oh, okay. Yeah. White supremacist. Right. All right. Okay."
Yeah, I had all of that.
I'm far right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I stood for the Brexit. I went to Emmanuel Centre and went to all those things. Yeah, I went to all
I was there on that day.
I saw you.
Did you?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. We knew all the MEP people and all that. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a lot in common. So because the same reason why I stood, I've got a happy job. I'm very settled. fixing ankle fractures. I mean, I don't need to do it. And in the medical world, it's just like the civil service. You know, if you wanted Brexit, you're a bloody retard. Like, you know, the only people who want that are a bunch of racist thugs. We're enlightened. We're educated. We're civilized. We love Europe. Yeah. So when I stood for the Brexit Party, I would literally have doctors walking past me in the corridor and under their breath going, idiot. And I'd be like, excuse me, I heard that. Come and say that to my face. And they would just walk away. Because you know what I'm like? I'm like, in your face, like, and I was just like, you bunch of...
Yeah. But you know what, though, Ahmed, is that, and I'm going to talk about people at ONS and their understanding. I remember he was the head of press for economics. I won't say his name. He was absolute Europhile. He loved Europe, and he was open enough that we would talk about stuff. And you know, I was open with everyone. I'm just like that anyway. But there's an irony in a lot of the people that are Europhiles, because at the same time as being a Europhile, they hate corporations and what they're doing around the world, you know, the right. pollution and all that. And what they don't realize, they don't realize the reality about Europe. And I remember on the first day I was out there, some of the existing MEPs from UKIP were telling me, we were giving a guided tour, and they were telling us all these stories. And at the time, I thought it was a case of, you know, the fisherman, you know, it's this big. And when in reality, it's that big, right? I actually found that being out there for 9 months, it was worse. It's worse than what I thought.
Well, we'll come to that in a second. So just like the Europhiles, I'm a Europhile. I love Europe, man. I mean, at one point in my life, I wanted to marry some young, sexy French girl whispering nice French things into my ear. But, you know, it never happened. But, you know, I love Europe.
Yeah.
I just don't love government. And I certainly don't love supranational governments. It's you know, the two are separate, but they kind of made it into one. You're like, you don't love Europe. Yeah, I love Europe. Actually, it's because I love the diversity of Europe.
Yes, yeah.
I want Brexit. I don't want a homogenous blob anymore. And, you know, I keep talking about, you know, I did a Substack about how it's a war on God, family, and country. And it's like being a nationalist for me doesn't mean, oh, I want a national government and we're better than other countries. No, it means I love every country's identity and culture and values and food, and I want it celebrated, and I want that true diversity to exist. And I don't want all the high streets to look the same. I don't want all the governments doing the same policies. I don't want every government run the same way. I like our country to be the way it is, and I want to go to France and Italy and Greece, and they are really different.
Yeah,
you know, that's like true diversity.
I mean, for me, it's you know, whether we want. You know, for me, democracy, the way it's intended to run, is it's supposed to run from the bottom. The people are sovereign, and then it works up. You know, that is. But you know, when we centralize things and we globalization, and we get these big supernatural structures,
yeah,
everything's top down. It comes from the center, and that's the wrong way around. And this is the problem that we've got in the world at the moment that we need to solve. How do we, in a world where things are connected and it makes sense for us to work together? Because look, when I was doing my research around Brexit, I thought my initial starting point, so I didn't know anything about Europe. I just thought, oh yeah, surely we should work together, right? We should be friends. We should do this. So I did a 180 from the start of looking at Europe to then concluding that no, this isn't right. I've got to vote against it. Because we should be working together. But this is the problem I think the world's got. How do we do that? And I've got some ideas. How do we do that so we don't end up with the tail wagging the dog?
100%. So it's really funny. Guess who I had this morning? You won't know. A guy called David Thunder. Isn't that a great name?
I've heard that. David Thunder. Yeah, no. I have David Thunder. Yeah.
I love that name. David Thunder. So that was the podcast I did this morning. And he's a lecturer at the University of Navarro. And so he's a migrant. He's moved from Ireland to Spain. He's living there now. And
yes, I've interviewed David. Yeah.
So basically, he's coming out with a book called The Polycentric Republic by David Thunder. Right, that's coming out December, January. And we talked this morning about exactly what you've just said, bottom up. You know, where local communities, local hospitals, local charities, local schools, local government, they run. It's everything's local taxation. very little is done centrally. You don't have the central authority other than, defense. And what happens is all these localities and regionals, like federal city states, they send an elected person to a group, a committee, who are the national executive. So there's nothing above them. The national executive is made up of all the constituent parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's never an overbearing, overarching, the government. And we talked about it. I'm not going to repeat the point. It was fascinating. It was brilliant. And we stressed the point that even like the American Constitution that is like made out to be amazing is not. Because if it was, why is America in the current situation that it's in? Where it's highly centralized, So, I had the same journey as you. I was very happy, very settled. Even didn't get a chance to vote for Brexit. There's lots of reasons behind it. My dad wasn't well, blah, blah. And, but when the vote came through, I was like, yes, like literally fist pump. Yeah. Like that's the first time in my life a vote's gone the way I want it to go. And for me, it was reclaiming our opportunity to run ourselves, because even the goddamn idiots in Westminster are difficult to control, and I would say have gone rogue, and for many years. It's going to be infinitely worse if now they're in Brussels. Like, I mean, we can't even control the guys in Westminster. How are we going to control the guys in Brussels? I mean, they're going to be totally captured by the multinationals and the corporations. It's lunacy. I want localism. I want local, regional stuff going on, not more centralization. So it wasn't some xenophobia. It wasn't racism. It wasn't irrational. It's not because I'm stupid. It's because it just made sense to me. And I didn't understand why no one else could. But it's because they're all indoctrinated. They're all virtue signaling. And they all think that if they follow this line that we love the EU and we're enlightened and we're cultured and we know best and you're just an idiot. There was a lot of this virtue signaling going on. And the people who were doing that actually don't understand. They don't understand their reality. They're just falling for the propaganda is what I think.
Yeah. That's exactly how it is. And do you know what? The bigger power center that you create, you always attract the wrong people. It's just, because look, I'm not driven by that. I'm not driven by power and money and all of that. But the wrong type of people are. So if you create these huge, great power bases, then it attracts all the wrong people. And when you look at Europe, well, you'll know how it works. The commission sit in behind closed doors with the corporations. It's all done in secret. And this is not a secret, by the way. This is how it works. But they sit together behind closed doors. They agree, the commission and the corporations agree what the legislation is going to be. And then essentially that gets put to the parliament. Now, the parliament isn't a real parliament. It cannot create legislation. All they can do is rubber stamp legislation. That's all they can do, and alter it slightly. So the whole thing is an illusion of democracy. It was actually set up, modeled really on the Chinese system, so that Europe could challenge China, because I think that the globalists saw a world where you've got these massive great entities, the US, China, and all these little countries. We can't compete. We're going to get overrun by the likes of China. So we need to create a system which isn't democratic, because democracy is messy. It is messy. I mean, there's no getting away from it. If you're going to have democracy, it is harder. It's slow. It's difficult. But like all good things, if you do it properly, that's the way it is.
So I would say the official line is that they created it to counter the bigger powers. I'm a bit more sinister. Skeptical. I meant not sinister. I'm more skeptical. I'm more skeptical in the sense that, well, maybe for some people I am sinister. Who knows? I'm skeptical because, in my mind's eye, it was just a way of the American empire controlling the European vassal state. Everyone's now under one system that they're going to control. You've got NATO. That's the military side. And then you've got the EU, which is the political side. And basically, America will say, do this. And Europe will say, okay. And also Europe wanted to do it so that, America wanted to do it so that the European nations were never going to be a threat to them. They would all just nod and have deference to America and do what's in America's best geopolitical economic interest. because Europe in itself could be so powerful and so strong, and through its diversity, through its individual countries. America did not want that. And I think, you're absolutely right about how they modeled the EU. So you got in China, you got the central party actors, and they might be very small amount who've got their little committee. They come up with the rules and the laws and everything. And then they take it to that big hall where there's all these people who are attending from the regions. But they actually don't have much say. All they get to do is say yes and vote and clap, and that's it. And that's the illusion of democracy that they've given us for the EU. That yes, look, your representatives are actually making a difference. No, they're not. Like you said, they're just voting on stuff that's already been decided. And I think a lot of European people who like the European Union, they have this idea that the EU protects them from corporations and global entities, and it's left wing, but what people don't realize is corporations captured the left a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago. And the corporations and the left have created this really technocratic Marxist communism 2.0. They're totally in bed with each other. It's not free market capitalism, it's crony capitalism and government contracts, and there is no competition. And what was it during Pfizer? I think Ursula van der Leyen, or whatever her name is, wasn't she like texting the head of Pfizer, and all those texts disappeared? I mean, what kind of transparency is that? You're negotiating multi-billion contracts and deals just between one person and another. Where's the accountability? That to me epitomizes what's been going on in the EU, and I'm sure you've got a million more examples.
Yeah, I mean, a good example, without going down too many rabbit holes, is the green movement in Europe. What that actually means is basically a ring-fenced garden. That's all it is. It's the bit where the big corporations can get together with the Commission, and they can bring in all these regulations, which means only they can compete in this market. It excludes everyone else because the bureaucracy involved in these markets, they are closed markets, essentially. That's what they're doing.
Because to compete, small businesses can't. They don't have the money to get through all the red tape and all the hoops, do they? It's not level playing field. It will always favor massive corporations.
Yeah, and what actually happens is these green initiatives, a lot of them, they're not green. They're actually not green. I mean, the deal that the EU has done with Brazil, cars for cows, right? Bonkers. They're cutting down the forests to rear more cows, and cars are apparently barred as well, But no, we're doing a deal where we can sell them across the world to each other. It just doesn't make sense. It's just a big illusion. It's a big lie. The whole green thing, but that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know.
Which we could do a whole podcast on that. But essentially, I think what we're talking about is the EU, how corrupt it is, and this goes all the way down to the MEPs. And I'll give you an example. So, a lot of people go into the Parliament. They're Eurosceptic, and by the time they come out, they're a little Eurosceptic, but less so than when they went in. And the reason for that is because your basic salary is 110,000 euros. That's basic.
Nice.
Then you get first class travel everywhere. So every week I would go out to Brussels. You'd be on the Channel train, first class, 3-course meals. You get picked up in a limo the other side. When you were in Brussels, you can call a limo wherever you are, and one will just turn up in 15 minutes and drive you wherever. But that's not it. You have another bank account, which you set up a separate bank account, and £4,000 UK pounds is paid into that each month. And it's
hold on. That's not your salary.
No. This is not salary. This is for stuff that you need to be an MP. So
your expenses, basically.
Your best laptop, the phones, all that kind of stuff. And that's not receipted. It's not expenses that are receipted. These are allowances. So it's just paid every month, whether you need it or not. £4,000 turns up into your bank. And
it's not taxed?
Not taxed. Then there is this little room.
Oh, shit.
Listen. There is this little room within the Parliament where and it's kind of, there's help desks there as well. But there's this one man or woman that stood there. They're there from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. And every day that you go in, you're present in the Parliament, you go in, physically sign this little book, you get €360 per day. And that's supposed to be for your accommodation and food. But the reality is, all of the MEPs are on Airbnb. You can get an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment for €300 for the week. So what you find is nobody stays in the Parliament on the Friday, right? Everybody goes home, but nobody goes home on Thursday night. Why? Well, you find out at 7 a.m. in the morning because there's a huge queue. Everybody with their suitcases, and they've stayed an extra night so they can sign in that little book and get that extra €360. So it works out about €1,600 a week, tax-free again, that you get paid, and it costs you in reality, even if you eat out every night, you're not going to spend more than €600 a week out there. I mean, I wasn't anyway. So that's another €1,000. Then, hang on, that's not it.
Oh, shit.
Then.
Well, I'm just like, I'm tallying all this up. I'm like, what?
No, it gets worse. So then I found that these smaller amounts were just turning up on my bank account twice a week, 180 quid here, 90 quid there. And I was just like, what's that for? Because it gets really confusing, all of this money just turning up in your bank. So I went to the help desk and I said, what's this for? And they said, well, that's your travel allowance. And I said, what do you mean, travel allowance? I got first class, all my food paid for. Well, this is to compensate you for traveling. So there's an equation, and it's based upon time and distance. So, I was traveling 9 hours, and there's this little equation, and then they pay that money out. So that works out at about another €200 a week.
Wow.
And I said, well, what's that for? And they said, oh, just in case you need anything.
Right.
There's loads of other stuff as well.
Okay.
So this is what the Parliament is about. It's about the MEPs go there. They all do their little speeches. So you can do a 3-minute speech and the Parliament will record you. So they all go and do that, really important stuff and talk like this. And then they put that on social media for all of the people that voted from the back home to say, look, I'm doing really important work here. And but it means nothing. All of it means nothing. And all in the meantime, the MEPs, it's probably, I worked it out, they're getting paid, not including all of the perks, like, you're automatically assigned to a place in the world. I think I was assigned to the Andes. You're like a special missionary. Every MEP is given a place in the world, and you can go on these junkets. We were told we were not to do that as the Brexit party because it looked bad. But, most of the MEPs, they're being flied 5-star hotels. And it's basically just a
holiday.
It's just a holiday, really. So there's all that as well. But I worked out, just in cash terms, not all the perks like hotels and all that kind of stuff. It's about €200,000 a year.
Wow.
200,000 a year. And I was working at ONS twice as hard. I worked hard, like a lot of people at ONS, when I was an MEP. Yeah. It's a racket. Whole thing.
So hold on, and how many MEPs are there in that year? I mean, are we talking about 100 or 200?
650.
650 MEPs, all having this cushy lifestyle, and £200,000 in their pocket.
Yeah.
And who's paying for all of this?
Oh, you are.
I know.
I am. Yeah.
You and I,
Yeah.
us muggins.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're going to have a massive pension. Like, so if you sit one term, like say 4 years, do you qualify for a lifetime pension? What's the pension business like?
Yeah. I was there for 9 months.
Yeah.
You need to be there 12 months to get your pension. So I missed.
Pension for how long?
So you get it at, I think it's you get it at 55 and then you get it for life. But
so hold on, you just do 12 months. You just do 12 months and you get a pension at 55 for life.
Well, there's a scale. So after 12 months.
Sorry, is there an EU seat that I can apply for?
So I think
stand there.
So basically, it's based upon time. The more years that you do, the more you get. But it's a fixed amount. So and they work it out based upon European judges. That's how MEPs get paid. It's a percentage of what a European judge gets paid. So if I'd worked 12 months, I forget how much it would have been. I think it would have started off on something like 15, 20 grand, something like that a year from when I was 55. If I'd stayed, I'll make the figures up, but just to give you an example of how it works, if I'd stayed there 2 terms, then you might have got 30 grand a year. But it's a final salary pension essentially, and you can take it from 55.
Wow. Right. Listen, I need to ask another thing. So I recently found out, like, this is about lobbying. The UK has the third largest lobbying group. Now, I'm not sure if America's the biggest and Europe's the second and England's, London, Britain's the third. But basically in the UK and around London, you got 4,000 lobbyists, and it's like a 2, 3, 4, 5 billion pound industry. I mean, they are paying a lot of money to take people out, wine and dine. You know, we haven't talked about lobbying. What's the lobbying like in the EU? You know, do parliamentary people get any lobbying, or is that people?
Yeah, they
What's
do.
the level bit above the parliament? Sorry, the council?
Yeah, well, you've got the commission.
That's it.
Well, the council is basically the collection of national heads. So the prime ministers.
Okay, so the commission is where all the decisions are made, and the commission are people from every country. Every country's government appoints people to send to the EU, and they're the commissioners, and they're the ones that do all the decision making behind the doors and behind closed doors. Am I right?
Kind of, yep. So
they're unelected, basically.
Well, they're elected by the people in the parliament. But that, to give you an example, Ursula von der Leyen, when I was, sorry, I'm going to have to just pause a second.
I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.